Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar focused on finding the best sustainability certifications for your brand or business. I'm Molly Hughes. So, this is an important and a timely topic with research showing that shoppers are becoming more discerning and skeptical of non verified sustainability claims. And third party verified eco labels or certifications guide purchasing decisions for conscious consumers and are what they trust most. So, we have a great list of certifying organizations that we're going to be speaking with over the next couple of months, including the Green Business Bureau on March 16th. We've got Global Organic Textiles on March 23rd, as well as the Green E certification for clean energy adoption and Cradle to Cradle for life cycle analysis in early April. And then we have a recording available of our conversation about EWG Verified, a great range of sustainable topics being addressed. So if you are a brand considering certification, or if you're just wanting to learn more about the process, you're in the right place. At this time, I'd like to bring on today's guest, and we are super excited to learn about rePurpose Global and their plastic neutral certification. rePurpose is all about tackling the plastic crisis, which we know is a big one to take on. So, with us today is Anjali Malpani, Senior Business Partnerships Manager with rePurpose. Welcome, Anjali.
Thank you so much for the kind words and the introduction, Molly. I'm really excited to be here today. I
We're
think this is a fantastic platform to discuss plastic action and impact, and I can't wait to dig deep into it.
I agree. So let's start by learning a little bit about you, Anjali. How did you get involved with rePurpose?
So as you guys can see, I'm Anjali. I'm the senior partnerships manager at rePurpose, and I've been working with the company for around 3 years now.
Mhm.
But before rePurpose, actually, funnily enough, I never thought I'd be in sustainability and impact. Growing up in India, or any other developing country for that matter, you kind of get desensitized to the waste that you're seeing every day and to the social and environmental implications that it has, but such a broken system that you just feel kind of helpless, and it becomes one of those things that you just start to avoid every single time, so it becomes a blind spot.
Mm,
But this one time before repurpose, I was actually doing a project with underprivileged women in a nearby slum area, and because of that I would end up going there every single day, and I would end up talking to the families, to the kids there, and I would end up seeing where they're living, what kind of conditions there are. And I think that's when it really struck me, the difference between the consumption that we have and the consumption that they have,
mm,
and the brunt of the impact that they face versus what we face by consuming less than one fourth of what we consume on a regular basis.
wow.
They have to deal with more than 90% of the impact or the implications of it. And once that conversation started, and once I started seeing it, I couldn't stop seeing it. And that's exactly when repurpose came in, which I thought was really good timing for me, actually.
Mhm.
And when I saw that, and when I realized that you can actually have business impact and sustainability all go hand in hand and actually really contribute to each other's growth, there wasn't any going back. After that, I was hooked, and now I can't do anything that does not have an impact.
Mhm.
So,
It feels good to do things that are just good in the world, right?
yeah.
So okay, so let's talk about how bad is this? How bad is the plastic crisis, and why is it important that businesses understand their plastic footprint?
Yeah, so I'm sure, especially during COVID, when we saw a rise in awareness when it came to the plastic crisis, that you must have also heard a bunch of different statistics around how bad the crisis is.
Mhm.
We eat a credit card's worth of microplastics every week. X amount of, oh yeah, that I see that might be news. I'm sorry for that bad information, but it is unfortunately true. But one thing that I really like to think contextualizes the problem a lot better is that then in the next 30 minutes that we spend talking, over 35 million pounds of plastic waste will be generated.
Holy
And
moly.
that, to kind of show you how to visualize, basically, is equivalent to around
Okay.
65 to 70 statues of liberty. So when you think about it, that amount of plastic
Mhm.
waste getting generated in the next 30 minutes is a lot, but that's only one part of the problem. When this plastic gets produced, most of it ends up getting shipped or exported to these developing countries that do not have enough infrastructure to deal with their own
Mhm.
waste, much less that of other countries. And what this leads to is the development of this informal waste management sector that is inherently very, very unethical, to the point that it reduces a person's life expectancy to as low as 35 years, which, when you think about
Oh
it,
my.
really puts it into perspective. So, the plastic waste crisis is not just environmental, but it's also socioeconomic. And if you really want to make a change, you can't you can't you the first step that you have to do is calculate and figure out your plastic footprint, figure out what your plastic hotspots are. Until you understand your footprint, you can't really reduce it or try to figure out better alternatives. So even if, let's say, creating impact on the ground might be something that you want to look at later, the first thing that you should be doing is just calculating your footprint and understanding it a bit better.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about repurpose. It sounds like you have a big global reach. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yes, so rePurpose Global is one of the world's premier plastic action platforms. And what we're really trying to do here is build a community or a coalition of both brands and of impact partners who can work with us to help solve this global plastic waste crisis. And the way we do this is through our global network of impact projects that you can see here. So we
Mhm.
currently have 14 active impact projects on the ground, and all of these impact projects are focusing on different types of interventions that are localized to that specific area. So, by that, what I mean is that we have a host of different types of impact opportunities that create impact. Maybe it might be socioeconomic, it might be supply chain development, it might be infrastructure, or it might just be plastic recovery from ocean bound areas. But all of them focus on things that are localized and that are problematic in that particular region.
Mhm.
So, for example, our project in Kerala focuses on building infrastructure for cities and villages that never had it before. Our project in Aurangabad, on the other hand, is a completely women led and run project in which they're helping bring formal waste management to a tier 2 city in India. Our project in Bogota, Colombia, actually takes low value plastic waste and turns it into plastic wood, which is then used to build everything from park benches to houses for the waste workers who work in the facility. And even though all of these projects are so different, the one thing that kind of unites all of them is our 100% additionality guarantee.
Mhm.
So, by this, what I mean is that for every single piece of plastic that you fund the recovery of, is a piece of plastic that would have remained in the environment if it was not for your intervention. So, this is easier explained with an example. So, in India, the recovery rate of PET plastic is close to 60 to 70%, which is a pretty high recovery rate.
Mhm.
On the other hand, its recovery rate for your MLP plastic, which is your toffee wrappers, your chips packets, is close to 0%. So, all our interventions in India focus on incentivizing the recovery and processing of this MLP plastic
Mhm.
so that we can be sure that your funds are going towards tackling the plastic that is polluting our environment. If we only help, let's say, increase the recycling rate of a particular type of plastic or just shift that burden from the informal to the formal industry, we wouldn't really be creating that much impact. But by doing this, not only are we building new supply chains for processing of different types of materials, but at the same time, we're also adding an additional source of income for the people who are working on the ground. So you'll see that every single impact project, along with the environmental impact, also focuses on socio-economic development. Both of them always go hand in hand. So you'll see that this ranges from making sure that they have access to things like PPE kits, gloves, masks that they need in order to do their jobs safely, along with things like uniforms to dignify their labor, to sanitation facilities to make it easier for the women working there to feel safe and comfortable in the environment that they're in, to even doing COVID 19 vaccination campaigns when everything was at a peak in India and vaccinations weren't available. Because as frontline workers, we thought that they should be the ones who should be getting it first.
Mhm.
So it's all of these small, small things that really make sure that the people working on the ground also feel as much a part of our community as the brands working with us do.
Wow. Yeah, really, really good initiatives. So there's businesses on, listening today. How can they get involved? I understand you have certifications available, and I'd like to talk through those.
Yeah, so we have three flagship certifications, and it's actually a very, very simple process. So all of these certifications they're built for companies that might have a plastic footprint, that might not have a plastic footprint. Regardless of your plastic consumption, at the end of the day, if you want to create impact, that is possible. So, when we're talking about certification programs, the first one is the plastic neutral certification. So, in this, you essentially commit to recovering an equivalent amount of plastic as you're using. So, let's say if in the Softly headquarters, you may be using 1,000 pounds of plastic every year. So, in order for you to be certified as plastic neutral, you would need to enable the recovery of 1,000 pounds of plastic from the environment.
Mhm.
And this, similar to this, we have our plastic negative certification. In this, you essentially commit to the recovery of at least twice as much plastic as you're using. So let's say again, if your footprint was 1,000 pounds, you would need to enable the recovery of at least 2,000 pounds of plastic in order for you to be certified plastic negative. And this number is completely variable. For example, we have brands who are doing as much as 10 times their plastic footprint. So, depending on the kind of impact that you want to start with and what your impact goals for the future are, this can be changed accordingly. And then finally, we have the Impact Guarantee Program, which, from a consumer point of view, is really easy to understand because you can see the impact that you would be creating right there on the label. So, in this, you essentially commit to recovering a preset amount of plastic for every product that you sell. So, you'll be saying that for every product that we sell, we have pledged to recover 1 pound of plastic from the environment. And all of these certifications, today over 280 brands are working with us across all of them. But alongside this, like I mentioned, we also have brands who are just creating impact on the ground. So, regardless of the certification, for example, Bird Space has a net zero plastic to nature by 2025 commitment, and they are recovering over 1.5 million pounds of ocean-bound plastic with us by 2024 for that. So, regardless of if you're using plastic, if you want a certification, I think at the end of the day, if you want to create impact, this is the way to go.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So a company like us, like Softly, if we decide, hey, we want to work with you, I'm assuming the first step is going to be determining what our plastic footprint is,
Exactly.
or at least it could be a good first step. How do you do that? Tell me a little bit about that calculation.
Yeah, so what we have done actually is prepared a plastic footprint disclosure tool, which takes in our disclosure methodology and
Mhm,
it helps you calculate your plastic footprint in a very, very simple manner. All you
mhm,
need to do is put in your packaging information. Let's say if you're using pallet traps for your warehouses and you're using pumps for your bottles, then all of those, when you put in those components in the sheet, it automatically calculates your plastic footprint across all of your different SKUs and your components. So it makes it really, really simple to calculate and understand your plastic footprint. And along that, while that process is going on, our sustainability team is also working with you to make sure that all of your numbers are correct. If you're facing any problems, if you need industry averages, markups,
mhm.
because not having the exact information really shouldn't be the reason why you can't take plastic action. So we'll just be working with you on all of that.
Mhm. And I'm assuming also then, we work with you to choose which impact projects, we would like to be involved in. Is that how it works also?
Oh, yeah, for sure. One thing that we really try to do is make sure that you feel connected to the impact project. So once you calculate your plastic footprint, we'll send you impact project options for you to choose from. A lot of times, what a lot of companies do is that they do an internal poll in the company where they send an email. So every employee can also choose which impact project they resonate with more. And then they go with the ones that get the highest votes. But we really want to make sure that when you are funding impact on the ground, that you feel connected to it. So in order for that, you need to know what's happening in the project, who is creating that impact, which region is it happening in. If you've been working with us over a year, can you see the difference that your funding has created? And when you're talking about it to your stakeholders, it's also very directed towards your impact project, and it's not we're creating global impact or our funding is going towards 14 impact projects, but more like this is where we chose and this is where our funding is going towards today.
Hmm. So, so obviously, I mean, I think the value to the business is there, and being connected to something. What do you think that value is to the consumer, and the recognizability of your labels?
Yeah. So actually, when we've talked to our brands about the certification and what they've seen has changed once they got certified, they really mentioned three key areas. So one is actually getting more customers in because they can target that eco-conscious sector of the consumer base where they're really looking for sustainable products and they want to make sure that they're investing in that. And
Hmm.
when it comes to the retail aisle, especially, these kinds of certifications make it really, really simple for consumers to differentiate which brands are creating an impact versus which brands are not. So, not only is it helpful for brands to look at it from a competitive differentiation point of view, but it's also really helpful for the consumers to understand which products should they go for when they're looking at it.
Right. Are there certain kinds of businesses or brands that tend to, be best for a certification like yours?
So, usually the brands that work with us are all brands that use plastic in their packaging or in their indirect footprint. So, even a lot of times, even brands that are, let's say, only using plastic in their warehouses want
Hmm.
to get certified as plastic negative because they really want to make sure that they're tackling that source of plastic waste. So, usually the brands that work with us have a certain plastic footprint, be it in the workplace or be it in their cafeteria or be it in their products and in their packaging or in their warehouses. But like I mentioned before, it's that's just one way. A lot of times the impact guarantee program in particular is really important for brands that do not have a plastic footprint but they really want to create impact because it helps them talk about the impact while putting that certification logo on top of their product as well.
Right. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the process for getting certified. What kind of timeline are you looking at? And then, what's the cost in doing so?
So the timeline itself is really quick. Like I mentioned, the first thing that you need to do is calculate your plastic footprint, and after that, it's on our team. So we'll be the ones who'll be going through your footprint sheet to make sure everything's correct. If there's any additional information that we need from you, and once we have that, and you know which program out of all the three that we discussed today you want to go ahead with, we'll be the ones who'll just be helping you kickstart the program by sending across impact project options, introducing you to our brand partnerships team. In terms of timeline itself, really the most time consuming part of the process is just getting the plastic footprint data from your manufacturers and co-packers. But on an average, we've seen that it usually takes companies around 1 to 2 weeks to calculate their plastic footprint. And after that, it's just a week long process to get you certified and get your impact kickstarted.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So I think it really kind of comes down to businesses knowing that they're doing the right thing, but also in building that trust with their consumers, right? So, do you have any examples of businesses that have worked with you and then how they've actually pushed their message successfulully out to the consumer?
Oh yes, for sure. I actually have a really good example for this.
Oh,
So
look at
uh,
that.
I'm not sure, but have you heard about Earth Animal by any
Yeah,
chance?
we've actually spoken to one of the co-founders of Earth Animal.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, that makes it so much more
I
exciting.
love it.
But yeah, so actually today, any Earth Animal product that you buy is certified plastic neutral. And Earth Animal, as you already probably know, is already a very sustainable brand. They have this 1% promise, which is one of my favorite things about them as well,
Hmm.
through which they dedicate 1% of their annual net sales to help figure out sustainable solutions, be it towards carbon footprinting, be it towards plastic action, or even just working towards PCR and recyclable packaging in the future. And Earth Animal, as I said, they are all of their products today are certified plastic neutral. And since they get to choose which project they want to go ahead with, they chose Project Sueno Azul in Colombia, which is the project that I was talking about previously as
Hmm.
well, which makes plastic wood, which I actually have a piece of. So this piece of plastic wood that you see right here
Yeah,
was actually made in our Colombia project, and
neat.
it's not the prettiest color, but it's my favorite
Mhm.
showpiece in the house. I talk about it every time someone comes.
I love it. I
Uh,
love it.
but yeah, so they chose to direct their funding towards Project Soin Azul, and they really wanted to make sure that their consumers knew where their funding is going and what kind of impact it's creating. So they talked about it across a variety of channels that are important to them, be it from a distribution point of view or be it from a marketing point of view. So
Hmm.
the first one is the website. So not only do they have a dedicated sustainability page on their website where they're talking about the certification, they also have a microsite on our website, which we built for them, which is essentially a one stop shop for consumers to learn more about their impact. It includes everything from what have they done in the past, why have they decided to go plastic neutral, what are their plans for 2025. So really making it easy for consumers to understand their impact and why they've chosen this particular program and what their goals are for the future. And they also have this learning for retailers platform, this is one of my personal favorites. Again, I know I'm saying this a lot, but it's all very true. But
Mhm.
yes. So this learning for retailers platform, in this they have an entire module on on plastic neutrality. They even use plastic action as an incentive for people to complete these modules. And they also talk about it regularly on press. They have their own blog in which they post about plastic action, what kind of impact they've achieved, what milestones they've reached. And this is actually from a trade show called Super Zoo that happens in North America. It's one of the biggest pet food trade shows. And
Mhm.
the very cute dog house that you see here is actually made of the plastic wood that I just showed you right now. So they made a doghouse of the plastic wood from their project to really show how tangible the impact of their funding can be. And along with that, they also created an entire video of about their collaboration, which used impact images and videos and interviews from their impact project to really put a face on the impact and show their consumers how they're creating that impact, who is the one who's behind all that action, and how can they support them.
Mhm. So, what this is all telling me is businesses are doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, but it is also going to give them a lot of credibility with their customers, and really just fun things to be able to talk to about the things that they can do while they're making an impact at the same time. So one thing I forgot to
Absolutely.
do is tell anybody who's listening, put any questions you have in the chat. We would love to, hear anything that you want to talk about. We did get one. They want to know a little bit more about rePurpose. Are you a nonprofit or a for-profit, and how do you guys work?
So we are a social enterprise, we're not a non-for-profit. And this is primarily because all of these impact projects that you see on the ground, we work with impact partners in those geographies to figure out which waste streams are problematic when it comes to plastic for them and help divert funding towards that. But along with that, you will also see that when I talked about socioeconomic interventions, a lot of them cannot be done through plastic credit funding. Those are also things that we need to do. And we want to make sure that when we're running all of these different projects, that third party funding is not the only thing that can sustain them, because it's not just environmental impact that's at risk, but also the livelihoods of the people who are working there. So by being a for-profit organization, it enables us to create impact in all of these different places, make sure that they have funding for even miscellaneous things that might not come to the forefront of our mind, but are really important for them, like the fact that they need uniforms to dignify their labor in these areas, or the fact that they need to consistently make sure that they're changing their gloves and masks to be safe when they're doing their jobs. And all of this helps us make sure that we can support their livelihoods even if brands partnering with us cannot reach that milestone.
Right, right. So another question we have from the audience, they want to know, you're actually certifying, what the question is, are you certifying the company, or are you certifying the product? And I think I know the answer, but why don't you go ahead and answer that?
Yes, so we're actually certifying it at a product level because we want to go as granular into the details as we can. And we also want to make it accessible for people who do not want to maybe take every single product line plastic neutral in the first iteration, but maybe want to start slow and then expand their impact from there. So you'll see that the certification itself is at a product level, and it's tackling both your packaging's plastic footprint along with your downstream plastic footprint. So when we're certifying any product line as plastic neutral, you need to account for both the plastic in your packaging and the plastic that you're using in your operations and shipping. So we're really looking at it from an end-to-end perspective.
Okay, got it. Okay, another question. What are the accreditation or recognitions for the certification?
Yes, so we're actually all of that plastic credit methodology is built with Vera, which is one of the standard setters in the social impact space. So they were one of the first movers in the carbon credit industry as well. So the plastic credit, our entire plastic credit model is built with Vera. And along with that, you'll see that if you want, a lot of our impact projects are also certified. And if you do want additional accreditations on top of that, we can also certify your plastic credits as Vera certified plastic credits. We also have different types of interventions, such as ocean-bound plastic recovery labels and women collection and empowerment labels, all of which can be applied to certain impact projects because, like I mentioned before, they're all dealing with different types of interventions. So, depending on the impact project that you choose, and if you do want a certain accreditation or third party verification, apart from the audits that we do internally and third party audits that we do, all of these are also possible in certain impact projects.
Hmm, very good. Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end of our time to get today being together. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Anjali?
Nothing from my side, but I do think this was a fantastic opportunity to talk more. I know this can be a slightly technical subject and information heavy, but at the same time, I really do feel talking about it more and more makes it easier it makes that inertia kind of go away when it comes to taking that step and, going ahead and creating some impact. And
Yeah.
maybe one thing that everyone can start with is just by calculating their own plastic footprint. If you
Mhm.
guys want, I can share a calculator with you guys. But just understanding your own plastic footprint would be a great start.
Yeah, yeah, we would love that. We would love that. So we can stick that in the chat. So so I'm going to show a slide in just a minute with your contact information, Anjali, as well as with Repurpose Global. So I want to thank you for being with us today, and we hope to all learn more and do our part in the future as well.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Molly. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we can all agree that this is just great information on how businesses can do their part in the plastic crisis. Research shows that most people want to support purpose driven brands that are doing the right thing, yet they don't know who to trust. So, all of you brands out there, today we talked about a great way to build that trust and loyalty. Our goal at Softly is to really help you with that process. We're doing these webinars so you can learn about third-party verification and certifications and really find the best one that's for your business. You can see that model on the left-hand side of your screen right now. And then we also have a platform that's going to take that message to consumers. It's our personal sustainable shopping assistant, which is a free download in the Chrome web store at softly.com. We elevate and suggest sustainable products on this platform to shoppers, products that are certified to be what they say they are. So to get a hold of us, here is the information on both the plastic neutral certification and Softly. You're going to see Anjali's direct email here. So I want to thank all of you for being with us today. Please join us again. Here is our upcoming schedule. I hope you all have a great day and tread softly on the world.